House Speaker Mike Johnson and 60 Republicans are heading to the southern border near Eagle Pass, Texas today. The first major event of 2024 to curb the growing border crisis. This just days after a historic 3,000 to 2,000 illegal migrants crossed into the U.S. in December alone. Meanwhile, Texas Congressman Chip Roy, he's skipping the House border trip, arguing that those impacted by the border crisis are, quote, tired of press conferences. Joining me now is former acting ICE Director, Heritage Foundation visiting fellow and Fox News contributor Tom Homan. Tom, the question to you, what are you expecting, if anything, from the GOP's trip? I'm sure we will get a press conference, but what else can we expect?
Look, I'm with Chip Roy on this. I talked to Chip 2 weeks ago, and I said we don't need another dog and pony show on the southwest border. What we need Congress to do is stay in D.C. and do what they promised they would do during the midterms. They need to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas for what he's done to the southern border. They also need to have hearings about how billions of dollars have been given to NGOs on sole source contracts, which are improperly led. I mean, there's a lot they can be doing in D.C. to hold this administration accountable. Going to the southern border for what I think is just another dog and pony show is not needed. I'm on their side of the issue, don't get me wrong. But let's get something done. We're in a historic crisis, an historic national security crisis on the southern border. It's time to stop talking the talk and let's start walking the walk and stay in D.C. and take some action.
Well, I would argue that the Fox cameras have documented plenty, including the video that we're looking at right now of what's happening at our southern border. So I agree. Do we really need another trip down there? You know, and now, of course, with President Biden, it's about the money. And the Biden administration wants the Supreme Court to allow federal Border Patrol agents to cut through or move the razor wire that Texas put along the border. So Governor Abbott responded saying, see you in court. Americans in courts are going to reject Biden's hostility to immigration laws. Tom, your reaction?
Well, first of all, the whole money issue. This is not a money issue. The White House wants more money so they can process aliens quicker and release them quicker, and again, line the pockets in the NGOs. This is not a funding issue. This is a policy issue. They can simply change the policies back to the Trump-era policies and secure this border. Second of all, hats off to Governor Abbott in the state of Texas. But, you know, they've done more to secure this border than anybody in the Biden administration, and that angers them because the Biden administration has opened this border up, not from incompetence, not from mismanagement, but by design. You got to give them credit. They ran on open borders and they kept their promise, but they don't want Texas standing in the way and securing the border. And you know, it's ridiculous that people think that Texas could do more. I always hear Texas could do more. Texas could do more. Every trooper that arrests an illegal alien for trespass, at least they're getting vetted. At least we know they're not a national security risk. Every ounce of fentanyl they seize is less overdose deaths in the United States. So not only is Governor Abbott protecting the state of Texas, which the federal government has advocated their responsibilities to secure the border, he's also protecting America. So hats off to Governor Abbott. I think he's doing the right thing.
Now, I want to bring in Amber Duke. She's on set with me today. She's got a question for you. Amber, go ahead.
Sure, Tom. On the issue of Texas versus potentially the Supreme Court, the Biden administration argues that immigration is fundamentally a federal issue. But my understanding is Texas is not doing anything that's inconsistent with established immigration law. Your reaction? You
know, I think Texas is doing the right thing, but you know, I'll tell you, I think Texas will lose a lawsuit. Just like in Arizona in SB 54, when Arizona tried to take some immigration enforcement efforts, they got shut down in Arizona. So I think in the end, Texas will lose a lawsuit, and it's a shame because Texas is simply trying to protect their state and their residents, and the federal government has advocated their responsibility. They are not doing anything to secure the border. If I was at the White House press conference, I would ask the White House spokesperson one question. You keep saying President Biden is doing everything more than anybody to secure the border. Can you name one thing? One thing he has done proactively to slow the flow, to secure the border? Because they haven't. The only thing they've done is send more people to the border, process quicker, release quicker, so the optics aren't there. The optics are overcrowded, so they can keep saying the border is secure. But again, they haven't done a damn thing to secure the border. So hats off to Governor Abbott. Keep doing it. But I think in the long run, unfortunately, he will lose it in court.
Yeah, well, you mentioned President Biden. Oh, he's doing something. He wants more money. Listen to what his response was to a reporter yesterday.
office, they ought to give me the money I need to protect the border.
Give me the money I need to protect the border. That was Biden's response.
You know, it's remarkable that President Biden and the Democrat Party are willing to let Ukraine and Israel go unfunded because they believe so much in keeping an open border. It's just ridiculous. And look, it is not a money issue. They could re-implement the Remain in Mexico program back tomorrow, which the highest court in the land has said was legal. That was a game changer for the Trump administration. They could re-implement the third safe country agreements, which they tore down the first 90 days in office. That was a game changer. There are certain things this administration can do policy-wise and catch and release. They can do three things: end catch and release, third safe country agreement, and remain in Mexico, and that would have a significant impact on our southern border. They don't need another dollar to do that. They don't need another Border Patrol agent to do that. This is a policy issue, and they know it.
Tom Homan, it's always great to have you on this topic. Tom, thank you.